We are here in China ahead of that historic summit between President Trump and China's leader, Xi Jinping. A key face-to-face meeting that could help shape the rest of the president's term and his legacy. And as the U.S. seeks to end the war in Iran, what role will China play, Iran's most powerful ally?
The world thinks Trump is going to Beijing to talk trade, tariffs, technology, artificial intelligence, American CEOs, Chinese markets. That is the public story. But behind the red carpets, behind the cameras, and behind the handshake with Xi Jinping, there may be a much more dangerous question on the table. Speculation is running high. But here's a snippet of what this visit may really be about. Let's listen.
The president is set to leave for China. Senior White House correspondent Selena Wang is in Beijing with more on the upcoming visit. Good morning to you, Selena.
Yeah, good morning to you, Robin. And this trip was already delayed once because of the war in Iran. And President Trump was hoping to land here in Beijing with that conflict behind him. But instead, it's expected to be front and center of these talks. President Trump wants Chinese leader Xi Jinping to use his leverage to convince Iran to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. But what I'm hearing from experts is that while China wants this war to end, they really see this as America's problem to solve. They don't want to get pulled in too deep. And Beijing can't afford to wait this out. They can be patient here because they built enough energy reserves. Now, what Beijing wants from this meeting, I'm told, is a longer tariff truce, fewer restrictions on advanced technology exports, and easier access to U.S. investments. President Trump, for his part, also wants to walk away from this with some tangible wins he can take home. He wants trade deals. He wants China to commit to buying American airplanes, agriculture and energy. Artificial intelligence talks are also expected to be at the top of the agenda. Now, more than a dozen CEOs will be traveling here to Beijing with President Trump to help make those deals happen, including Tim Cook as well as Elon Musk, also top executives from Meta, Visa, and Goldman. That shows you, Michael, just how much is riding on this.
You got it right. Iran is probably a very high stake on the table. Because Trump is not arriving in Beijing at a normal moment. The trip had already been delayed by the war in Iran. The Strait of Hormuz is still unstable. Oil markets are still nervous. Washington is still looking for a way out. And China may be the one country with enough influence to quietly shape what happens next. Now, let's pay attention. Trump may say publicly that he does not need China's help. But politics is not only what leaders admit in public, it is what they need behind closed doors. And right now, the United States may need something from China that it does not want to say too loudly. It may need Beijing to use its leverage with Iran, to calm Hormuz, to push Tehran toward restraint, to help create a path out of a war that could consume the rest of Trump's presidency. That is why this meeting matters. Not because Trump and Xi suddenly trust each other, not because one summit can fix everything, but because the world is watching to see whether the real conversation is trade, or whether trade is the price of China's help on Iran. This is where things get complicated. China is not just another observer in the Iran crisis. China buys Iranian oil. China gives Tehran economic breathing room. China talks to Russia. China has influence in places Washington cannot reach easily. And China has every reason to prevent the Strait of Hormuz from becoming a permanent wound in the global economy. But here is the part that makes this dangerous for Trump. China may want the war to stop, but China does not see it as China's war to solve. From Beijing's view, America helped create the crisis. America escalated pressure. America now wants an exit. So why should China rush in and hand Trump a political victory for free? That is the hidden bargain. Trump wants Xi to help manage Iran, but Xi will ask, what does China get? And this is where the meeting stops being a simple diplomatic visit. Because what Beijing may actually want is not symbolic friendship. It wants a longer tariff truce, fewer restrictions on advanced technology exports, less pressure on Chinese firms, easier access to U.S. investment, and recognition that China cannot be treated as an economic partner in one room and a permanent enemy in the next. Now, note this carefully. China is not sweating the way Washington might want it to. Beijing has prepared for this moment for years. It has built energy reserves. It has diversified supply routes. It has deepened ties with Iran. It has built relations with Russia. It has created enough patience to sit across from Trump and wait. In other words, China is not desperate. And when one side is not desperate, it negotiates differently. That is what gives Xi leverage. Trump needs a visible win. Xi wants structural concessions. Trump wants to come home with deals. Xi wants to shape the terms. That is why the business delegation matters. Trump is not traveling alone. He is going with major U.S. corporate power around him. Tim Cook, Elon Musk, top executives from finance, payments, aviation, technology, and investment. That tells you something. This is not only diplomacy, it is theater. It is deal-making. It is Trump trying to show that he can still sit with China, bring corporate America to the table, and return home with something concrete. Planes, agriculture, energy, technology, artificial intelligence. Those are the visible deals. But the hidden question is different. What does China want in exchange for helping Trump calm Iran? Because China is not going to help for free. It wants something from Trump that could shape the U.S. economy for years. And it starts with the one thing Trump hates giving up: leverage. A tariff pause gives China breathing room. Technology access gives China room to climb. Investment access gives Chinese-linked firms more space. A softer U.S. position gives Beijing time. And time is exactly what China uses best. So while Trump may want China to help reopen Hormuz, Xi may be looking beyond Hormuz. He may be asking, how much pressure can we remove from China while America is distracted by Iran? That is the deeper game. Iran may be the crisis. Trade may be the payment. AI may be the future. And China may be the quiet power deciding how much help America deserves. This is why the meeting is so important. If China pushes Iran toward compromise, Trump gets breathing room. If China stays passive, Iran can keep waiting. If China quietly coordinates with Russia, Washington's pressure becomes harder to convert into results. And if China offers help only in exchange for concessions, then the meeting becomes a negotiation over the price of peace. Now, look at the risk for Trump. If he returns with trade announcements but no movement on Iran, critics will say the trip was corporate theater. If he gets China's help but gives too much away on tariffs or technology, critics will say Xi extracted the price. If nothing major happens, markets may see the meeting as empty symbolism. And if Hormuz remains unstable, the Iran war continues to sit on top of oil prices, shipping routes, and Trump's legacy. So the real question is not simply what Trump and Xi will discuss. The real question is what Trump needs Xi to do, and what Xi will demand before doing it. That is why Beijing may become the most important room in the Iran crisis. Not because China is openly leading the peace process, not because Xi will announce some grand solution, but because China can shape the pressure quietly. It can tell Iran not to escalate too far. It can give Tehran economic space to resist. It can support safe passage without endorsing America's war aims. It can talk stability in public while bargaining hard in private. That is how China plays power. Quietly, patiently, without looking desperate. The United States wants a visible outcome. China wants long-term advantage. That is the difference. So when the cameras turn on, watch the smiles. Watch the CEOs. Watch the official language. But pay closer attention to what is not said, because the real deal may not be announced. It may be hidden in the concessions China gets. A longer tariff pause, a softer tech line, a new business opening, a quiet understanding on Iran. That is where the real story may be. Trump may be going to Beijing to talk trade, but he may also be going there because China holds part of the key to the Iran exit. And if that is true, then this meeting tells us something much bigger. America can still pressure. America can still threaten. America can still negotiate. But China can now shape the exit. And that may be the real story behind the summit. Not the handshake, not the red carpet, not the CEO photos. This is the real story. Trump needs a win. Xi has leverage. Iran is the crisis. Trade is the price. And the world is watching to see who pays. If this breakdown helped you understand the hidden power struggle behind the Trump-Xi meeting, subscribe now, turn on notifications, and watch the next Liberation Lens analysis on your screen. Because this was never just about trade. It was about who controls the pressure, who controls the bargaining table, and who controls the exit when America needs a way out. That is the real story behind Beijing, and that is why the world is watching.